welcome back to the Unfiltered Trainer podcast. I am your host, Gina, aka Gina Marie Fit, on all social media platforms. If you're new to the podcast, you can find this podcast on Spotify, on Apple, and on YouTube. And I officially think I have cracked the code thanks to Justin and Allie giving me a really good recommendation on how to incorporate video. So I'm going to schedule my first girl chat interview, and we're going to utilize these wireless mics I got and attempt to film it on my phone. We'll see how this goes. At the end of the day, it might just be some long form YouTube videos, but I hope we can format it so I can bring it to the podcast to start incorporating these bonus episodes. If you are new to the podcast, at the beginning of all of this, not only did I want to start a podcast, but I also wanted this to be an opportunity to showcase those who are doing the most, to give people a platform to speak their truth, to share their stories, and to really provide a level of comfort, support, and inclusivity that sometimes lacks, especially if you've been through traumatic events, you've gone through grief, you struggle with your mental health. It's not always a space that you feel included, welcome, or able to speak on your truths. And I really want my podcast to be that place. And so I'm going to move forward. So stay tuned, and I hope that we will have some interesting episodes soon. Today's episode is titled Enough is Enough. You are worthy. And I'm going to preface today's episode with sharing with you something personal. And I don't want anybody to feel responsible or to think I'm speaking about them specifically. I'm going to speak in really generalized terms because this is something I've been trying to navigate for a while. Since my brain injury, I have had a lot of things that I have kept very close to the shield, very close to my heart. A lot of that has to do with my recovery, things I'm struggling with. I have a very hard time letting people see me be weak, letting people see me not be on my A game. And I was extremely antisocial. And I've just started trying to make more of an attempt to call people or to text them. I used to send video messages to clients, and I have steered away from that because my speech, my memory, everything was so affected that I was really embarrassed. And so as we were working with the neurology team and the specialist team to really push to recover the things that I still have significant deficits as we test, I am trying to just accept where I am at. This is going to be a part of my story for the rest of my life, and just truly believe in my heart and my soul that, I am who I am and I'm doing the best I can. And it kind of ignited this episode because I've been struggling for the last, I guess 6 months now, almost since the start of the accident, and probably honestly before the accident. Something about me is that I'm a naturally inclusive person. Even as a kid, when I saw somebody sitting at their lunch table by themselves, I always invited them to sit with my group, or I would just go sit with them myself. Anytime I see somebody, and I started doing this after my grandfather passed away, when I would see an elderly person eating alone at a restaurant, and I still do it to this day, I would privately pay for their meal and I didn't let them know. And it was just something that I've experienced so many times in my life with my story about grief, that it really resonates with me how many people feel alone. And as I've been recovering from this brain injury, I have really realized how alone I feel in the world. And it's not because I don't have a good support system, but it comes down to this sense of self-worth that is lacking, because I realize more than ever as I'm getting older that I don't have a very traditional story, and that now more than ever, as I've gone through something so traumatic as this accident, I realize just how much I don't have in my life for somebody my age and what I should have. And it really has taken me down a lane that has been a bit of a dark path because I have really been struggling with my own self-worth and with my value and where I belong and who genuinely wants me in their life. And I'm struggling for a couple reasons. I'm struggling because I'm in a place that I have now lived for 3 years, and year 1 compared to year 3 looked totally different. Year 1 and like year 2, I had a fantastic support system down here. I had the greatest group of friends. Everything was as good as it could be expected with a lot of changes going on in my professional life, but my solid group of people I had. I could call on them. We could pick up dinner last minute. I always had people to work out with or go do things with. And in 3 years now, a lot of my friends had moved away. And so it's really shaken me up a bit because those core people, I know they're gone, but because of my memory, I'll go to text them to go invite them to do something, or I'll go want to go down to the pool and be like, hey guys, do you want to come to the pool? And as I'm texting them, I realize that they're not here. And it's these moments since my accident that as I'm regaining my memory, I have a pretty significant memory deficit still. And so timelines and things are very gray. They're very kind of faded. I don't have a sense of time anymore. And so it's something that I pray to God I get back, because it's very confusing, because I'll be doing something before I made this podcast, I was cleaning my apartment and I thought to myself, man, I haven't called my family in a while. And when I mean my family, I mean my grandpa and my dad. I used to call them every Friday. And it's so silly because it's been so many years now since they both passed away. They passed away a few weeks apart unexpectedly. And I have these moments where I know they're not here, but I also revert back to my routine sometimes because I'm missing large periods of time in my head still. And it gets you kind of funny. And it's just those little moments where you're like, oh, something's different. This isn't normal. And so I've been learning to adjust without my core group of Tampa friends. Then there's the added element of I'm not homesick for my hometown, but I terribly miss my friends back home. And I often fear that I will be forgotten because I know for me to do what I need to do, to be who I need to be, to achieve what I need to achieve, I have to be here. I can't do what I'm doing here back home. I have to be here. And I love them all so much. And they truly are family to me, but I'm not home. And I choose this. I made this choice. I am away. And I feel like I'm missing out on so many important things in their lives. And since the accident, I've really had to be not selfish, but very self-focused, that I feel like I'm not as present in their lives. And it makes me sad because I struggle so much to get through my days that by the end of my workday, I can't function. I can't pick up the phone and call somebody. And I'm just really missing my hometown friends because they know my story and I don't have to explain things to them. And when I feel a certain way, sadly, a lot of them know a lot of my struggles too. It's their truth too. And so it's this just naturally inclusive group of incredibly strong, inspiring, empowering people. And I don't think they even realize, and I really want to figure a way to do something special for them when I'm a lot better, because even though I'm so far away, they were the first people I contacted. They're the people that kept tabs on me. They just mean so much to me, and I hate that I have to be so far away from them. It's something that as I'm getting ready to re-sign my lease, because the thought of moving is just too much at this point. I thought I found an apartment. The number is god awful. And even though I qualify to live there, the apartment for the number being so insane, like the units look like the Holiday Inn, like the bathroom looks like the Holiday Inn. And so my whole idea of moving this year, I was so sold on moving and getting a bigger place. And now I'm like, oh, screw it. Like, you live in the perfect place. You love your environment. You can walk to work. Like, it was a great idea, but if I'm still here in a year, then I want to find a bigger unit in my building. I've been stalking our webpage, but like nothing where I want to live in the building has lined up yet. So I'm going to kind of send an inquiry to them. If it does, could I move at some point? But I have just been missing my people. And that's kind of where this comes down to, because the last portion of why this podcast episode is coming out now is that I have been on a professional roller coaster, and I've spoken about this in other episodes. I moved to Tampa for a specific home therapy company, and even though it wasn't perfect, they were wonderful. And they just always had my back. And then our company got sold to a bigger company, and everything you could think about that comes with that happened. They bought the company. They kind of bought all of us. They bought the whole group. And then after they settled in, they cut our pay by 20%. And if you know anything about Tampa cost of living has more than doubled in the shortest time that a large city in Florida has seen. And so making less isn't an option. And then last year, between my job, corporation changing, our pay changing, the gym I was working at was no longer where I needed to be. It's all these things that you kind of like develop your self-worth from were fading. And then that all happened at the gym job after my accident. And it's something I haven't really spoken on as to how detrimental those three things happening at the same time were for me. I literally remember, as all of this happened, sitting in my car in the parking lot after all these changes had come about, like losing it, like losing my shit in a parking lot, because I was so upset and so distraught that like it just felt like my whole life was falling apart. I already had a lot going on before the accident. Now I have a traumatic brain injury. I'm still trying to kind of go to work like in a partial manner. And because like, you know, and when you're in an accident, not only are you at the mercy of the insurance companies, but there's certain parts to my accident that I don't know when I'm going to be allowed to talk about. But eventually I will share this episode and I will talk about what happened at my accident site, after my accident site, things that have still been happening. I still have another procedure I have to go through. There's been a lot, and I'm not in a place that I can talk about certain parts of things yet. And so a lot of this falls on you financially until things are resolved eventually. It takes forever, honestly. And so me being me, I had to work through it, even though the doctors, like, it was a whole thing. And so I really went through what felt like an identity crisis, because so many things were happening to me. People I thought were in my life weren't in my life. People I thought I could trust, I couldn't trust. It was just this wild, weird ride I felt like I was on. I just felt like I was living a nightmare. And it's something that I've been really silently working on, but I feel like I can't silently work on it anymore, because I've had too many conversations in the last few months with too many people I love and care about who are also struggling with this. And so that was a very long, drawn out explanation, I guess you could say, but it really has to lay the foundation for why this episode is so important for me, and it might be so important for you too, because enough is enough, y'all. You are worthy. I am worthy. You are worthy. Whether you want to call it self-sabotage, you want to call it imposter syndrome, we are more than worthy of everything that is on our heart, that we desire, who we want to be, what we want to accomplish, and where we want to go. Self-worth is a struggle. And I really preface self-worth, not self-confidence, none of that. Like, we're talking self-worth. It's that internal sense of being good enough, being worthy of love, belonging with others, being a part of groups. Self-worth is at the core of our very selves. It is our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. They're intimately tied into how we view our worthiness, how we view people in our lives, how we view ourselves. And sadly, as I'm having conversations with other people, I'm not alone. I have a lot of amazing, incredible people in my life who I am inspired by that are struggling with their own self-worth. And so we're going to break it down, how you define your self-worth, why you may be struggling with your self-worth, how can you find your self-worth again, what can we do to increase it, and then why it's so important in your relationships. And when I reference relationships, I mean family, friendship, intimate relationships. When I say relationships, I mean the people we spend our time with, regardless of the status. That is part of our core belief system. That literally kind of like ties into everything we are. And so your self-worth can be defined by 5 major components, in my opinion. It can be defined by your appearance, your income, your social circle, your career, and your all-around achievements in life. And so you may ask yourself, why do I struggle so much with my self-worth? Because some people don't even understand what this is because they're fine. And there are other people like myself who, no matter what we do, accomplish, like it's wild to me how much I still struggle with this at my grown age, even though I have come from where I've come from, gone through what I've gone through, still going through what I'm going through, but still accomplishing so much at the same time. Like it's just this wild mental ride. And so a big thing for a lot of us, and I talked about this in my birthday episode, and I'm going to say something real quick. I was talking to a friend the other day, and, she had applauded me for doing this podcast because I am being so open and so vulnerable. And this is part of it. The number one reason most of you are struggling with your self-worth is your childhood. And I talked about it in my birthday episode, and I referenced that episode specifically because it is the most downloaded episode of my podcast. And I am so proud of that. And I'm proud of that because if you listen to that episode, my voice is literally quivering as I talk about it. It was the most honest I had been in a very long time because last year I was unwell to a level that I had not been since my grandfather, father, and best friend had all passed away back to back to back. And I referenced that episode because if that many people have downloaded that episode, that tells me that there's a reason for this podcast to exist because I am speaking the truth of so many of you that are out there that are resonating with my words. You may not comment, you may not leave a like, you may not leave a review, but clearly that episode has the highest amount of downloads for a reason because that topic resonates with a lot of people. And that is why then one of the top things why people struggle with their self-worth is their childhood, because a lot of us have dealt with childhood traumas, abandonment. A lot of our issues stem from things that happened in our childhood, and it's not until we're older and grown that we can understand why that is so important and why until you heal from those things, they will continue to resonate and repeat themselves in one way or another in your life until you are healed. Whether you believe in God, the universe, the higher being that is above us, y'all, is teaching you lessons. And I always say there are people like myself who are stubborn, who have to continually repeat certain lessons until we get it right. We are going to learn these things. And a lot of people struggle because of their childhood. Obviously I struggle with abandonment because you're supposed to believe that the one person you can count on is the person that brings you into this world. But it's different when that person didn't want you. And it's different that a lot of my friends who have dealt with divorce or dealt with similar situations, and they're like, oh, so when did that person come around? Well, y'all, we're at 26 years later and, still going strong. I don't even know if that person's alive anymore. And so a lot of my issues obviously come from my childhood, from abandonment, from, watching what my biological parents went through until they divorced, watching what my father went through, how hard that man had to work, and, seeing his unexpected early passing. All of those things are very big factors into how I see myself, how I see life, and why I hold on to people so tightly. And I try my hardest to let people know how much I appreciate them and try to do things for them, because I never want anybody to feel the thoughts I've had throughout my life on more than one occasion when I've been struggling with my self-worth. Another thing that a lot of people deal with when they're struggling with their self-worth is poor performance, whether that means that you were not performing well at work, whether that means you got fired from a job, got laid off from a job. I feel that sadly is so many stories lately of how many people have been laid off or fired. Or you're maybe like me and you thought when you were young and 20, your life was going to look one way. And now that you're, 30 plus, my life does not look like anything I thought it would. In my realization now, I know it's better, but if I would have told my young 20 plus year old self, hey, at 30, your life's going to be like this, I probably would have choked, because I would have never believed how I thought my life was going to be and how it is now. They are not remotely in the same universe, y'all. So your performance could be because you thought you'd accomplish more by now. You thought you would have owned a house, whatever it is. I feel like my generation's screwed. We're always going to be in debt. I feel like we're literally the generation of debt, not like our grandparents who could buy a house, paid for their cars in cash, could work in the summer and pay for your college. I remember working all summer at 2 jobs and all I did was pay for my books. The reality of being a dual biology and psychology major was my books were expensive as AF. It was awful. I just feel like our generation is just screwed, and that could be a whole freaking podcast in itself. Another reason you might struggle with your self-worth is ongoing stress. Stress will make your brain do a whole gymnastics routine, y'all, flipping back and forth, reversing all the mess. When you are stressed and your cortisol levels are high, it throws off your whole body's performance, your mental health, your mental abilities. You cannot see the world clearly. So if you are stressing, your self-worth will be compromised. Number 4, relationships. And remember, I said when I say relations, I mean friendships, I mean family, I mean personal, intimate relationships. This means the people you interact with. The reality is we are the sum of those who we surround ourselves with. And I am learning so crucially, so how important this is after things in the last 6-7 months of my life have been flipped upside down. I am very careful who I spend my time with. And I would rather spend my night alone than I would spend my life with people who I have to question. You should never have to question the people in your life. I always say I got my people's back in their front. I am truly, naturally a very protective person, and I will go hard for my people, and I will do by them whatever needs to be done to support them, to stand up for them. I will go toe to toe with people. Let me tell you, you will not mess with somebody I love if I have anything to do with it. And lastly, also your social circle. And that can include coworkers, hey, your gym friends, your friendships, but the people that you choose to spend time with, that's a big part of why you might be struggling with your self-worth, and we're going to talk about it. So, how do you find your self-worth if you are somebody that is struggling, if it is faltering? The first thing is to avoid comparison. If I looked around, and I have, I've had faulted myself in this. Living in Tampa, for those that don't know, Tampa's a very incredible university called the University of Tampa. It is beautiful. I mean, if I went to this school, I would have never gone to school. It sits on a river. It's 40 minutes from a beach, and it's right next to downtown. These students have it made. But this school brings extreme wealth to Tampa. And I've had so many friends that go to UT, wonderful people, but they have truly different realities than me, especially financially. I always say, I used to imagine what my life would have been like if I didn't come out of school with debt, if I didn't come out of school with the car payment, if I didn't have to do all these things myself. I couldn't imagine what I would accomplish. But then I have to tell myself, but then would you be the hard worker you are? Would you appreciate things the way you appreciate them? And, I used to compare myself a lot to these like what seemed like picture perfect relationships, because it blew my mind how many of these like students' parents are still together, let alone like still in their lives. Like it was a big one for me. And so if you are somebody that falls victim to comparison, if you're trying to find your self-worth, you have to avoid comparison. Second thing, you need to learn to be kind and love yourself. And I know that seems woo-woo and I know that seems cheesy, but y'all, if you don't love yourself, no one else is going to love you, because we accept the love we think we deserve. So if you're like loving yourself and thinking you're like, this half-ass, like what you deserve is less than what you truly actually deserve, the universe is just going to keep giving you this modified version of what you actually need, want, and desire. The third thing is you have to consider the role you play in other people's lives. When I had referenced that I've been dealing with this like concept for a while, I said I'm a naturally inclusive person, which means I'm always inviting people to do things. I'm always planning things. I do love planning things. And like, if you're in Tampa and you do events, I would love to get involved in like event planning. I'm doing stuff for BFT and I love planning events. I love partnership meetings. I love marketing. I was just in one for a restaurant we're having an event at, and I was like giving her connections. Like, I want everybody to shine. I want everybody to be successful. Like, I want the best for everybody. And so you have to consider your role in other people's lives. And why I'm struggling with that is people don't reciprocate my effort. And I know you can't expect you from other people, but it's really freaking hard for me when I invite people to do stuff all the time and then that doesn't happen. Those people will go do things and they don't think to include me. And I'm not referencing after my accident, because for a while I couldn't even like go to a restaurant. Even now, I can't sit at a table with a bunch of people because I cannot focus on a conversation to save my life. I can only listen to one person speak at one time. But when I see people doing things, even if I couldn't go, it would mean the world to me if I was just included. And it's a struggle because I often wonder why I'm not included. Is it because, and I go down that rabbit hole, do they not like me? Do they not want to be around me? Like, are they trying to be nice because of my accident? They don't want to invite me knowing I can't do certain things. Like, the narrative I tell myself in my head is just crazy town, honestly. And it has nothing to do with me. Like, they probably weren't even thinking of you. But that's what hurts, is because I do always think of other people and I'm always trying to celebrate people, that it's hard when people don't even think about you. You're not even a thought in their mind. And I think that's the hardest thing for me, is these people mean so much to me, but you realize as life happens that if you don't mean as much to those people, you have to lessen their importance or you will truly just crumble. The fourth thing, find inspiration in others like you. What's really helpful for me, and this is why I love my hometown friends, is because we all come from the same place. We all have very similar stories. And when I see them crushing it at parenthood, crushing it at their jobs, having successful relationships, like those are the things that inspire me, because I often wonder if I can do any of those things, honestly. And I find inspiration in people who are like me, who are steps ahead of me. I'm learning, like I said, you can't compare two completely different things. You can't compare an apple to like an avocado. Like, they're truly just not the same. And so it's helpful if you are inspired by people in a similar lifestyle to you who might have been a couple steps ahead of you, because it reminds you what's possible. Lastly, this one is something I know a lot of therapists recommend, and I'm not big on this, is journaling. If you are somebody that does well with writing things down, then journaling is going to be great for you, because you get the thoughts out of your head. For me, I like literally talk through these things in my workouts. Like, I literally have a whole internal therapy session when I'm working out by myself and working through my issues, because by the end of the workout, I'm level-headed, I'm clear about the subject I was working through, and my endorphins are flowing, so I feel better. Now, how can you increase your self-worth? We know why we struggle. We know how we can find it. So how can we increase it? There are 8 things that I specifically resonate with that I hope you do too, to elevate your self-worth. The first one is confirmation bias. How many of us, and like I'm raising my hand literally, have told ourselves a narrative to be true that is not true about ourselves? We have to find objective measures to verify the thoughts in our head instead of telling ourselves subjective narratives. They're the furthest thing from the truth that actually happened. So be mindful of confirmation bias. Number 2, accept praise, y'all. For the love of all things above, when somebody compliments you, if you're like me, instead of following it up with a negative or something that is not right, please just say thank you and shut up. Like, I'm trying this really hard. I'm like, when somebody compliments me, I'm just saying thank you and shutting my mouth, because nothing is worse, because you're listening to yourself, than when somebody compliments you and you follow it up with thanks, but. The only buts we're embracing are the glutes that we are growing in 2024, y'all. But remove it from your vocabulary and learn to just say thank you. Number 3, write a list. Write a list of the things you've accomplished, the things that you've overcome, the things you thought would deter your path. Write a list of the things you love about yourself, that you respect about yourself. Create a hype list, as I'm going to call it, for yourself so that you can have something tangible. Put it on your mirror, put it on your refrigerator, something to remind you in your low points, and it will help elevate and stimulate those cells in your brain and elicit positive endorphins. Number 4, practice mindfulness. And I know this can be woo-woo to a lot of people, but there's nothing better than yoga and meditation. Take it back to your breath, especially when you're struggling. I do this with my patients all the time. Breathing in your nose, slower breathing out through your mouth. Breathe in and then slowly breathe out. That is actually helping relax your central nervous system, and it will help you to feel focused in the moment. Truly try to be present. I'm on social media. It was an accident at first. Now it's a choice. But when I am with people, I snag some photos or some videos because realistically, I don't remember anything. And so I like to have these things so that down the road, when I want to revisit these or tell a story, I know I'm going to need triggers to stimulate my brain. And then I just focus on the event. And I try to just be present. So being mindful also means being present in the moment, putting your phone down and being present with your children, present with your friends, with your family, your coworkers. Just give them your time, your energy, and your focus. Number 5, challenge yourself. Y'all, you should have known this was coming. It's me. I want you in the next month to do something that you've set your heart and soul on quietly. We all know these are like quiet thoughts. I want you to go after something you've wanted to do for a while. This podcast is something I thought about doing literally like before my dad passed away. And look how long it took me to make happen. I want you to put the buts aside again. Stop questioning, can you do it? And take steps to show that you are more than capable and worthy. I want you to step outside of your comfort zone, because when you do, you open yourself up to new people, new experiences, and you learn. If we are not growing, we are dying. So y'all, challenge yourselves. Number 6, move your freaking body. I don't mean get ripped. I don't mean overly exercise. I don't mean restrict your nutrition. I mean move yourself in a way that feels good, because again, endorphins, happy people feel good about themselves. We are trying to encourage and improve our self-worth. Do something to move your body. Take a walk, go to yoga, go to Pilates, lift. If you're a runner, more power to you. My friends that listen to this podcast that run, all about you guys. Happy for you. Never going to run with you. Stop trying. Stop asking me. You guys are hilarious, but I'm never going to run with you. Do the things that bring you joy and stop worrying about the outcome. Stop worrying about the scale. Stop worrying about what you look like. Do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because you want to look a certain way. For the Lord have mercy. Can we stop over exercising and doing the most? Just do what you freaking enjoy. So that way you will want to go. And then the more you do it and the more you go, the results will follow. But you don't have to punish yourself to get those results. Number 7, and I want everybody listening to listen. So if you're doing something else right now, take a pause and listen to me. Sleep properly. You can't function when you don't sleep well. And I hear so many people as I'm working with online clients too. They're like, oh yeah, I function on like 4 to 5 hours. No, you freaking don't. No, you don't. You may have grown accustomed to sleeping in limited hours. You may power through your day. You may over caffeinate yourself. Knock, knock, wink, wink, Gina. Something I actively have been doing and I haven't talked about is actually decreasing my caffeine intake. I've actually gone multiple days this week that I worked from home that I did not have caffeine. It was a struggle, but I am trying to adjust because I am one of those people that depends on caffeine to function. But if you're sleeping properly and establishing a routine and fueling your body, which is number 8, y'all, fuel your body with nutrient-dense foods and find balance. When you do these things like exercise regularly, sleep properly, and fuel your body, it's going to be crazy how much better you feel mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's wild how when your body is in proper alignment and balance, how it just works. It's crazy, shocker. But it's things that are easy to negate and forget because what do we do when we get busy? We put everybody before ourselves and we put our needs on the back burner. So we're going to tie all of this in and how this is so important in our relationships. And it's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast now is because self-worth in relationships are synonymous. Do not make the mistake of basing your self-worth off of your relationships. And again, that means family, friendships, and intimate partners. It is normal to let love make you feel better. Like I said, I want to be included. I want people to think of me. That makes you happy. But you can't define who you are by who is or isn't in your life. Because if there's anything my life has taught me, it's that even though you might have fantastic people in your life, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. Literally, y'all, I say that twice because so many times in my life, I've been hit with an unexpected loss or a terminal illness somebody in my life has had to go through, and you really think you have time with those people. And then they pass significantly earlier than you thought they should. And then you are forced to realize that your whole worth is tied to their existence. You have to stand alone because when things happen, you're going to have to pick up the pieces and know who you are and be able to still accomplish your goals and dreams and have worth and value and be able to truly think in the future. But you're not going to be able to do that if your whole existence is tied to the past and you haven't healed from things that you are still internally struggling with. And so when something happens, you got to be ready. You got to know who you are. You got to know what you want to do in your life. And then as you heal with your grief, you still got to go after those things you said you wanted to do. And so when you love yourself, you're better at life. You're better at loving others. You're better at appreciating others. You're better at understanding others, which means in every aspect of your life, when you love yourself, you feel good about yourself. You're a better coworker, friend, family member. You're a better human being and citizen. Think how often when we're so busy and focused on every other thing, we will miss somebody as we're passing them by that might need a smiling face, that needs somebody to say hello to them, or somebody in need because we're so focused on ourselves. Self-worth comes down to you knowing who you are internally and externally. What do you want to achieve? How do you want to feel? And when you accomplish these things, what do you want yourself to be defined by? And then when you do, what's next? One thing that I feel like is going to be super important, and we're going to call it today's takeaway, honestly, is establishing truly that hype list. And if you're struggling too, I want you to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper, take a walk, sit by the water if you're in Tampa, sit in your car if you're a busy mom. Like I know some of my friends that are moms are like, Gina, I don't have a spare minute. Give yourself 5 minutes. And I want you to just write down everything that you can think of that comes to mind that you've been through, that you've gone through, that you've overcome, setbacks, hurdles, misfortunes, and then realize how long that list is. And you are still here. Everything you thought would deter you, that would keep you from moving forward, that you thought you couldn't overcome, you thought would define you and your existence. You didn't think you'd still be here in general, like me. Didn't think I was making it to 36. Let me tell you. Realize that we have surpassed every single worst day, and there are more bad days to come. But if we solidify who we are, we surround ourselves with people who reciprocate the same energy. It's a balance game too. When we're high and we're vibing, some of our friends might be low. It's kind of like they say in all relationships. When you're 40, they're 60 and vice versa. Life is not 50-50. Relationships can't be 50-50. When you do all of those things and you focus on your family and you focus on doing right by people that you come across in your life, it's incredible the accomplishments you will make. And they're not accolades that are going to be on a billboard or on a medal, but you're generally just going to feel like a more centered, aligned person. And because of that, you will do so much good in this world. And as we do right in our inner circles, it's like a positive domino effect. When we take care of those, they take care of others, and it just keeps being reciprocated. And that, my friends, is how we make the world a better place. But it starts with us. So if you too are struggling with your self-worth, your value, I want you to know, I always say this, but I mean it, you're not alone. And that's why I want this podcast to be. It's just a place that we can have open, honest conversations, talk about things that we might be embarrassed to talk about. I'm putting it out there so that you feel comfortable enough to have these conversations with the people in your life, so that you too can establish your self-worth, establish your boundaries like we've talked about in a previous episode, and together move forward collectively so that we really can get the most out of every single day we are given. All right, y'all, if you haven't yet, please love this podcast. I need you to leave me a 5-star review. Make sure you're subscribed so you're getting all of my weekly episodes. We drop an episode every Tuesday. I say we because I feel like collectively this is a partnership. You are making my podcast happen. You are what drives me to keep doing this. And then stay tuned because your not tech savvy girl is going to figure out the mics I got, the video system, and I'm going to put out one of my guest interview episodes very soon. Hold me to it, y'all. I'm holding you to being better. Hold me to making this possible. All right, y'all, you know it. Stay tuned and we will chat soon.